Hi, this is Untitled. This is just kind of my life. I posted a video when I first started my YouTube account, and you'll hear parts of that video in this. I've deleted that video as it was an edited, very edited, written part of my writing, but I didn't want it to be edited. I wanted it to be real and raw and say things. I mean, in my writings, sometimes I write and sometimes it makes people uncomfortable because I say things that not normally people talk about. People are ashamed, or people just, they don't know how to be with such rawness, but that's how I write raw. And this is basically just my life. I don't have a title to this, yeah, so I'm just gonna read it, and I hope that somebody watches this and can relate and know, and that some of these things resonate with them, but to know that, this was my life for, years and years and years, but it's not my life anymore. And I hope that there's a message of hope from this, to show that I have a story as much as everyone else does. I'm not unique in that. And this is my story. This is parts of my story. And I've overcome that. I'm still here. I've survived it. And if anyone has gone through anything that I've gone through, then that means that you can survive it too. Because if I can, you can. So I'm just gonna go on and read it. I remember all of the pain here, all of the darkness wrapped around these walls. All of the drinking and passing out and blackouts, waking up, not remembering anything and needing another drink. The desperation and the willingness to touch death just for a moment's peace, finding and using anything to take me out of me. The loneliness I could feel aching in my bones, sitting in the pain trying to find a way out. Being pulled so far down to a place where I felt I belonged. Eminem's Mockingbird on repeat. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Everything's gonna be alright. Snorting lines off of my 12-step book after another relapse. Wrapping a cord around my neck, strangling myself. Watching my flesh become discolored until I passed out. Found out of the relief of it when I was going to hang myself one night. Instead of the strangling became enough to push forward one more day. But the bruises around my neck and the pot blood vessels in my face became progressive. I became addicted instantly. It was a rush when I could finally breathe. Writing out suicide letters on my couch, trying to let go of the pain. Some nights I intended to get so high that I would write out a note just telling everyone how much I loved them in case I overdosed. Being raped on my bed while I was passing in and out of consciousness, the smell of him lingering everywhere in my house, but welcoming him back in because I deserved punishment. The fear that would make my whole body shake, selling my body to dozens of men, hanging off to the toilet, throwing up the last few drinks with tears in my eyes, not understanding how it had happened again. Standing over my bathtub, forcing myself to drink through the dry heaves, not wanting to, but knowing I had to because I needed to get drunk. Punching myself until I had bruises all over my body, the shame so deep. Days in bed, not being able to get out with the lights all shut off. Chain smoking until my lungs felt like they were bleeding. Sitting on my bathroom floor, cutting myself for hours sometimes with a razor blade to find a moment of relief, blood everywhere. Scrubbing my body in the shower until my skin was red and burning and never feeling clean enough from all of the men touching me all over, needing the dirty feeling, that shame to go away. Nights on my knees begging God to just let me be lovable. Insomnia so bad I would rock myself back and forth, cradling myself, hugging my teddy bear, crying uncontrollably. Coming home from detox with IV bruises all over my arms and wrists, asking God why it was that I didn't just die, why He couldn't just let me be at peace. So many nights I would just beg God to let me die. This is where I was supposed to find my peace, but it was just a useless fresh start. I was lifeless and lost. I remember sitting at the kitchen table at detox at 2 a.m., writing out everything I could remember about the last few nights. It had been my first blackout. The drugs and the drinking and the sleazy motel on Lundy's Lane. The man that was making me do things I didn't want to do to him and doing things to me for my next drink, but I did them anyways because I had to. Waking up with lost time, 10 hours had gone by. I didn't know what I had done or what had been done to me, and I didn't know where I was. I remember the fear of just wanting him to stop touching me. I remember running away into the back of the lobby, into a hallway. It was dark with one light flickering on and off. And then I woke up in the hospital being told I was about to be put on a ventilator because I was barely breathing on my own. That I had flatlined on the ground at detox after being carried in because I went unconscious during the 15-minute ride there. I remember every time I took a breath I could feel where they did the compressions on my chest to start my heart again. And waking up out of my coma and the doctor telling me that it was basically a miracle that I was alive. And I remember going into the bed and crying until I couldn't breathe, until it hurt. After that, I felt like I couldn't touch a drink again, and I stayed sober for almost 9 months, the longest I ever had sober. But then I perceived an abandonment, and it fucked me up so profoundly emotionally that I couldn't bear to be in my own skin. My heart hurt so deeply from loving someone so hard and feeling completely betrayed and abandoned once again, and I was so dysregulated that I started using again and couldn't stop. It became more than drinking. It was cocaine and MDMA and any opiate I could get my hands on, and most of all, heroin. I had become a heroin addict. It became my love, and I didn't give a fuck about my life or about anything or anyone anymore. All I cared about was the heroin and getting high. I swore after that never to trust anyone ever again, never to love anyone, never to allow myself to be vulnerable. That life was about survival, period. Which continued to over a year of daily using of anything I could find to alter my state of mind. I remember my ex shaking me one night because he thought I had stopped breathing, leaving bars and passing out in the middle of the shadiest roads, hence, i.e. Queenston Street. Overdosing on my medication so many times. Once I was restrained and shut up with drug in the ambulance when my ex called 911. Drunk, high, overdosed, cutting my legs to shreds. My sister came over and she saw me and called 911. Blood was everywhere. All I remember was her crying. I was in the ambulance laughing. It was like the devil had taken over me. I just wanted silence, the city to stop spinning, the world to stop moving, my mind to stop thinking. I just wanted to die. I hear in my mind all the time, Isabella, you should have just been aborted. And I think everyone thinks that, especially my family. I wish it just as much as they may, because I feel like neither of my parents wanted me or loved me, and in turn I can't love myself either. I remember leaving my mom's house when I started living in shelters when I was about 15. Before I got this place, and I remember telling myself things were going to be different, that I could finally give to myself what I never got. I had the best of intentions. I didn't realize how hard it would be. How hard it would be to give myself something that I knew nothing of. How hard it would be to feel like I even deserved it. Or how hard it would be to be alone and take care of myself. Not only as a child, but with addiction and severe PTSD and borderline personality disorder. I had nothing to go by. I never understood how hard it would be to not have parents who I felt loved me. Or how much pain I carried around with me would linger with me enough for me to be desperate to do anything to kill it away. I never knew how to give myself the gift of living because all I knew was how to survive. So when people tell me I don't want to get better, fuck them. I'm doing what I know how to survive. Everything I have done was to survive. My entire life has been about literal survival, whether it be from imminent danger or emotional. I remember when I was homeless for a year, not knowing where I was going to sleep or be or what I was going to eat the next day. I remember being homesick and not even having a home. Sleeping in shelter beds for some days to forget it all, and other times not being able to sleep at all. I couldn't understand why a child would have to separate themselves from their family in order to save their own soul. Sometimes I would cry for days just screaming at God, begging him for a mom, that I just wanted a mom, someone to love me and take care of me. I remember going into E's office with my bags, not having anywhere to go, not knowing where I was going to go after our appointment because I had just been kicked out of another shelter. I was so numb I couldn't even cry. She looked like she was going to cry for me. She was the first safe person I had. I was so withdrawn I could barely speak. I couldn't understand how my mom never cared about me, that she could just throw me onto the streets. How she could just throw me onto the streets and not care where I was or what was happening to me. That a man was more important to her than her precious child. It was my fault, and I've always believed her. The first night I was without her, I sat on the couch at the first shelter I was at. I went into this room that nobody ever went into. With all the lights off for 2 days straight, I was in so much pain I just cried. Rocking back and forth, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't sleep. I was so scared I didn't know what was going to happen or how I was supposed to take care of myself. But I had to fight through it because I didn't have any other choices. I feel like I had never had any choices. I could never choose when I was being beaten and sexually abused for years of my life. I didn't know how to not blame myself, and I still don't. I remember my mom telling me that when I was a baby, my dad wouldn't let her hold me, that I would cry in my crib for hours, and when my dad fell asleep, she would stick her hand in through the crib bars and hold my little hand. Maybe she did love me at some point. Maybe she does love me now. I just feel like there's nothing to love about me, though. I've been told that I was just a child, that what happened to me wasn't a testimony of me, and that the shame wasn't mine but theirs. But is that really the truth? I had multiple years of abuse. Multiple years to tell someone I never told a soul. If people really knew the truth, they would blame me no differently than I blame myself. The first time it happened, I was sleeping and he touched me and I just allowed it. Then after that, it happened every time I saw him. It escalated to points that I can't even talk about. And yeah, it was hell. I knew that I had to do what I had to do to survive. And I think I could live with what happened to me if it just involved me. But he made me hurt my little sister too, and I can't live with myself for doing what I did. It was just once, and I know intellectually that I had no other options. I learned to fight back I learned not to fight back after a while because he would hurt me until I did what he said. I felt like I wouldn't have been believed. As a child, I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't feel like anybody loved me enough to believe me, nor felt safe enough to confide in anybody. But that's not sufficient enough. I hurt someone just like he hurt me. I hate him, but I am no different from him. And that's the most fucked up thing I've ever experienced. She must think I hate her, but I just can't be around her sometimes knowing that I possibly fucked her up for the rest of her life. I was supposed to protect her, and I was supposed to protect myself, and I didn't, and nobody can ever understand that. I think most of what I've gone through, people make their own assumptions and judgments about that everything was for attention. The only response I have for those kind of comments are look at me in my eyes and tell me that this pain isn't real. That these things never happened to me. If you're honest with yourself, you will know that nobody would go to such depths to almost die twice from using so much drugs and drinking to such an extreme because they didn't know how to live in their own skin. Attempt to kill themselves multiple times and suffer every day profoundly for attention. And I will even say, if someone would go so far for attention, give that fucking poor child some attention, because obviously they need someone to love them. Nobody does these things because it's fun. If you knew what it felt like to be in my body, if you only knew, you would understand the way my life went. Because even though I write, there really are no words for the pain and tragedy and trauma. As human beings, we are wired to need gentle affection, love, and human connection. We need it to survive. These are the things in life that make no sense to me. Every time my mom is in the hospital, I lay up at night crying, wondering how much time we have left until she dies and finally completes suicide. My heart can't bear it because I love her so much. I would never purposefully dismiss her suffering, let alone make my own child think or feel that her life is worth nothing and she is worth nothing. Actions speak louder than words. Watch someone, don't listen to them. Actions speak louder than words. And I know she hates me for what happened. All I ever wanted was to just be loved. I don't understand why nobody can love me. And why I'm just left to die. Why people look at me and turn the other way instead of taking me by the hand and helping me, as God's intention for us as His children. To help those who need to be helped. To love those who need to be loved. I overdosed on heroin. My entire upper body basically paralyzed and was completely deaf in both ears. I couldn't even call 911 because I couldn't hear. I had to get someone to call for me. After most of my hearing came back and I could walk, I discharged myself against medical advice and went and picked up heroin again, even after almost dying. You see, I couldn't see past all of this stuff anymore. I couldn't see beyond the darkness. Did I want to be an active addiction? No. Does anyone really want to suffer? No, I don't believe that. People want peace. They want to feel normal in their own skin. They want to be happy. They want to have and be healed in relationships, not hurt. We hurt because we have been hurt and don't know any other way to be with just that. Never have I ever wanted to hurt anyone or myself. But I have, because that's the only way I knew how to live. Sometimes all I want is just someone to hold me in their arms and never let go. I don't understand why that's so much to ask for. A hug. I don't understand why it always hurts so much to love someone. And I don't understand why it's so impossible for me to love myself. I feel like I can't understand anything anymore. I've been crying all night. I've never cried the way I have tonight before. I was crying because I realized how broken my life and I am, and that I don't know how to fix it anymore. And the fear in that, the loss of control, how I am falling and I'm clawing the walls trying to get up and keep falling. I thought I knew things. I thought I had at least some things figured out, but I don't. And I fell to my knees crying until I couldn't breathe, until I was hugging the toilet gagging. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. All I saw was pain in my eyes, and I have no idea how to fix it. I feel crazy all of the time. Then I cried for my mom. I'm sad for her. Sad for what she had to go through and goes through still, and that I didn't have enough compassion for her or empathy because it was affecting me, and I was too resentful to see her behind her own illness. To see that this was her illness and not her, and really realize the monster she was living with. And then I began crying harder, crying like I never have before, because if I knew the monster she was living with, then I knew who and what that monster was, and that it is inside of me too. I don't know how to pull myself together. I don't know what's wrong anymore. I don't know who I am. I never have. I have faith, I do. But that absolute grief and pain and madness, it's scary. But I think it's so scary sometimes because it's real, authentic. I kept screaming at myself in my head, you need to honor these feelings and feel them. You need to feel this. You can't run. You can't keep running. You aren't running. I just kept screaming at myself, stop running. I woke up one day a few weeks ago and I thought I was going to die. It was a life-altering experience from a dream due to a psychosis episode from a medication I was on. I was panicking and thought all this energy was going to kill me. Mentally, I was literally battling with myself. I felt a pull and a power I can't even explain, and then for a week I couldn't even go in public because I couldn't be around people. I was completely out of my body and everything was just totally weird. I was completely depersonalized, and then lately my thoughts have been fucked, and I've just been experiencing memories so deeply. It's like I leave this moment and I'm in another world, like memories are literally coming alive. Mentally, I'm not in the moment, and then I come back too, and things are just so overwhelming. Life just doesn't make sense ever. Seriously, I sometimes seriously think I'm crazy. Like, shit has happened with me mentally I can't even explain. Scary shit I've never told anybody. I love the pull, the Russian roulette with my life. That's why I self-harm. That's why I use. It's the only thing that makes me feel alive, literally. I justify it and tell myself I'm a writer. I need to live an adventurous life so I have something to write about, like research. But it's bullshit. I do this because I don't know how to live and was never ever taught. Nothing feels right. I feel dead unless I'm cutting or strangling myself or snorting heroin or drinking until I black out. What if the only way I'm going to get better is if I'm babysitted 24/7 for the rest of my life in some lockdown psychiatric facility? I think those thoughts a lot sometimes, and it's really frightening. I'm scared to be alone, but I won't let anyone get near me. I need help, but I don't even know what help is anymore because I just can't hear one more person tell me that they don't know how to help me. I just can't, and I can't handle worse, and I just want this nightmare to be over. But I know regardless of how I feel, feeling these feelings, peace is around the corner as long as I continue to honor. Because peace has to be there, right? It just has to be. It can't be so dark forever, but maybe I'm wrong. So maybe if the state of my mind right now is a testimony of my strength, that I'm weak, and maybe I should just keep watching the city spin. Paint it with my pain, paint it with these images and what nobody ever wants to say. Maybe I'll just never paint with colors. Maybe colors are just too pretty. I guess my only question is, should I put down this black paintbrush or keep dancing in this darkness? And only you, God, can answer that. Will you give me something else? Can I trust it? Or should I hold more tightly onto this black hole that I have perfected? I want to live, but maybe my fate is to die. Maybe I'm not meant to live. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. I just keep seeking God, looking for some answer. And every time I take a breath, I try to remind myself that as long as there is breath, there is hope. So that's that. And I just want to, side note, say that I wrote that almost 2 years ago. I added some stuff to it, but a lot has changed. A lot. And I don't feel that way most of the time anymore. And there is so much hope. I mean, my fate is not to die, and I don't think it's anyone's fate to die from the disease of addiction or to die due to mental illness and taking your own life. To me, that's not an option today. Self-harm is not an option, and using any drugs that will alter my mind and mood is not an option. And like, I feel freedom today, and you know, I wanted to share that because that's a part of my story, and I want people to know that they're not alone, that if they've experienced things like that, they're not alone. And currently I'm working through these things, trying to understand these things, trying to understand how these experiences have affected my life, trying to understand how I take them on as a reflection of myself, and how I take the things that people have done and said to me as a testimony of who I am, instead of a reflection and a testimony of who those people are as people. And how, you know, how some people are just not capable of being who we need them to be. And I mean, on on August 23rd, I will be 3 months clean and sober, and I haven't strangled myself since April 12th, and I haven't cut since 2 months ago, and I only did that once. So I have been self-harm free, I have been substance free, and I'm learning how to live, and it is the most amazing, beautiful experience ever, and God's grace is just embraced me, and my eyes and my heart and my mind are open to His beauty and love, and He gives me strength to get through each day. And when I struggle, I reach out for help. And if anyone is struggling right now, reach out, because there are so many people and so many places where you can find help. And if you can't find someone, I'm here, always. So, I just wanted to share that, and know that, sure, I have been, you know, that's some of my story. And there's so much more to my story than that, but that's a part of my story. And now my story is changing. It's a new chapter, and I am just so grateful and blessed, I feel, and grateful and thankful, and I am just it's like a miracle, you know. I really truly did think that my fate was to die from this disease or by my own hands, and today I don't want to die. I want life. I want to live. I have dreams, I have goals, and I know I have 100% confidence that I will be able to accomplish them. And I always look at it as, and this is dialectical behavioral therapy I'm in for my borderline personality disorder. It's a therapy to treat borderline personality disorder. And if anyone is watching this video and has borderline personality disorder, I highly, highly recommend you get into dialectical behavioral therapy. It is the treatment for borderline. I'm only 4 months through. It's a year program, and I am already seeing things in my life change. I'm learning how to regulate my emotions. I'm learning how to have healthy relationships and have boundaries when that was like, I had no concept of what a boundary was before. I'm learning, you know, how to take my stuff and leave other people's stuff with them. And I'm learning how to like myself, and then starting to learn how to love myself. And I mean, just within a little over 2 months, like, the shift that has happened is absolutely, it blows my mind. And I just want everyone to know that, like, this can happen for you too, and you're not hopeless. Nobody is hopeless. And if you don't believe in God, there's always, you know, a higher power, any kind of sort. Reach out to something. And if you are stuck there, reach out to a tangible person who you know will care for you, and validate you and hear you and love you until you can love yourself, because that's what I've had in my life. I have people in my life who love me and who have loved me since I started this journey over again, and I don't know where it would be without those people. And I am internally grateful, wholeheartedly, genuinely grateful for all of the love in my life and support. And even professional wise, I have amazing professionals in my life who go above and beyond to help me, and I am just so grateful and so blessed. And just